Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Excited to be here.
Too. Today we're going to be looking at the idea of purpose. Like that driving why behind everything we do.
Mm-hmm.
And to help guide our exploration today, we'll be using an episode from a podcast called The Inner Compass.
Oh, cool.
Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I have. I've listened to a few episodes.
It's a really good one.
Okay.
And the specific episode we'll be referencing is episode 5, titled Defining Your Purpose. So before we get too deep into it, I think it would be helpful to start with a clear definition. What exactly are we talking about when we say purpose?
Yeah, so in this episode, they define purpose as our lifelong compass. It's like that inner guide that points us towards a more fulfilling life.
Okay, so it's like the big picture.
Exactly, yeah. And it's important to distinguish purpose from things like goals or passions.
Oh, that's a good point, because I think those terms often get used interchangeably.
Right, they do. And while they're all related, they're not exactly the same thing.
So how does this episode differentiate between those terms?
Well, they describe goals as milestones along the way, specific achievements that help us move toward our overall purpose.
Okay, so if my purpose is to help people live healthier lives,
Right.
a goal might be to become a nutritionist or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then passions are those things that just light us up, things we love to do, but they might not always align perfectly with our purpose. They could just be for fun.
Well, that makes sense.
Right.
I guess I'm really passionate about learning to play the ukulele,
Right.
but that doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be my life's work or anything.
Exactly. It could just be a passion that brings you joy, and that's totally fine. The source even talks about how someone's purpose could be something like being an amazing parent,
Yeah.
or a dedicated mentor in their community. It doesn't have to involve a high-powered career or anything like that.
That's such a good point, because I think a lot of times we get caught up in those external markers of success. We think our purpose has to be tied to our job title or how much money we make. But it sounds like this episode is really challenging that notion.
It is. It's about finding that deeper meaning and fulfillment regardless of those external factors.
So can we have a better understanding of what purpose is?
Yeah.
But why is it so important? Why should we even care about finding our purpose?
Well, the episode argues that understanding our purpose can be incredibly powerful.
Okay.
For one thing, it gives us a deeper sense of resilience.
Really? How so?
Well, when we know our why, our actions take on greater meaning. We're not just going through the motions, we're contributing to something bigger than ourselves.
So it's like having this inner anchor.
Yeah, exactly. It helps us weather the storms of life, and it helps us stay motivated, especially when things get tough.
Oh, I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
I know when I'm feeling lost or unmotivated, it's usually because I've lost sight of that bigger picture.
Right. And purpose can help bring that back into focus. It also helps us prioritize what truly matters.
Yeah.
Because when you know your why, you're less likely to get caught up in distractions.
That makes a lot of sense. So all of this sounds great in theory. But let's be real. Finding your purpose can feel really daunting.
It can.
Where do you even begin? The episode talks about some common roadblocks that people face, right?
It does, yeah. Some of the big ones they mention are things like feeling pressure to meet other people's expectations.
Oh, yeah.
Being afraid to go after our dreams because we fear failure.
Mm.
Or just feeling totally overwhelmed by the whole process.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah.
It's like my family still thinks I'm going to be a doctor, even though I'd much rather be a park ranger or something.
Right. It can be tough to tune out those external pressures. And then there's that fear of failure.
Yeah.
Which can be so paralyzing. What if we put ourselves out there and it doesn't work out?
Yeah. Or what if we pick the wrong purpose or something?
Right. And sometimes we get stuck thinking our purpose has to be this huge, world-changing thing.
Yeah.
When it could be something much simpler and more personal.
It's a really good point. I think a lot of people get hung up on the idea that it needs to be this grand, epic quest, when it really could be something much more down to earth.
Exactly. And thankfully, the episode does a great job of debunking some of those myths.
Okay, so tell me about this myth busting. What does the inner compass have to say about these misconceptions around purpose?
Well, one of the biggest myths they tackle is the idea that purpose is this fixed, unchanging thing.
Oh.
It's not. It can evolve throughout our lives as we grow and change.
Yeah, that's a relief, because I think a lot of people feel this pressure to have it all figured out right now.
Right, and that pressure can be so counterproductive.
Yeah.
They emphasize that it's about embracing the journey. It's not about having this perfect airtight plan. It's about being open to growth and change.
I love that. So we can all breathe a collective sigh of relief.
Exactly.
No need to panic if we're not 100% certain about our purpose right this second.
Right.
And speaking of things that can change, they also debunk the myth that purpose has to be tied to our careers, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like it's not all about the job title.
No, it's not about chasing a specific job title or climbing the corporate ladder. Purpose can manifest in so many ways. It could be about our relationships, our creative pursuits, how we contribute to our community.
Yeah, I know so many people who find a deep sense of purpose through things like volunteering or, creative hobbies.
Exactly.
It's not always about what they do for a living.
Right, and the episode really emphasizes that.
Okay, so we've talked about what purpose is, and we've busted some myths about what it isn't. But the big question is, how do we actually start to define our own purpose-vism? What are the practical steps?
Well, it all starts with introspection, taking the time to reflect on what truly brings you joy and fulfillment.
Oh, hold on. Let me grab my journal.
Yeah.
Because that sounds important.
It is. They suggest asking yourself some really thought-provoking questions, like what activities make you lose track of time, or what problems in the world are you passionate about solving?
I love that. Those are such good questions. Because I think it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and forget to even ask ourselves those things.
Right. It's like we're so focused on checking things off our to-do list that we forget to check in with ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. So once we've done some reflection on those questions, what's next?
Well, then they suggest taking a look at your core values.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this whole values thing. How does that connect to purpose?
So values are like those guiding principles that shape our decisions and actions.
Okay.
And they actually suggest a simple exercise. Write down your top 5 values.
Okay, this is a good time for our listeners to maybe pause the deep dive.
Yeah.
And actually do this exercise right now.
I agree.
So grab a pen and paper or open up a notes app on your phone and just take a few minutes to jot down those top 5 values that really resonate with you.
It's such a valuable exercise.
We'll be right here waiting for you when you're done.
Yes, we will.
Okay, so let's assume we've all got our list of values.
Now we start to connect those values to our purpose.
Okay, how do we do that?
Well, the next step is about connecting to impact.
Connecting to impact.
Yes. So this is where we start to think about how our actions, guided by our values, make a difference in the world around us, even in small ways.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Yeah.
So, if one of my core values is compassion,
right,
maybe I look for ways to express that compassion through my actions, whether it's volunteering at a local soup kitchen or just being a more attentive listener to my friends and family.
Exactly. It's about aligning your actions with your values and asking yourself, how can I use my unique strength and passions to make a positive impact?
I love that. It's not about needing to be a superhero or anything.
Right.
It's about recognizing that even small acts of kindness and service can ripple outwards.
Exactly. And finally, to really cement this understanding of purpose, the source emphasizes the importance of embracing experimentation.
Experiment.
Yeah. Being open to trying new things, stepping outside our comfort zones and seeing what resonates with us.
I'm all about that.
Yeah.
I feel like we learn so much about ourselves when we're willing to try new things and push our boundaries.
Absolutely. So we're talking about things like volunteering, picking up new hobbies, taking on new challenges at work.
Yeah.
Anything that helps us uncover what truly lights us up.
And did they happen to share any stories or examples in the episode?
They did. There's this really cool story about someone who stumbles upon their purpose through a totally unexpected experience.
Oh, I'm so curious to hear that. But I think we need to take a quick break and let all this information sink in.
Yes. Let's do that.
When we come back, we'll dive into that story and explore an awesome tool they call the Purpose Map.
Sounds good. Welcome back, everyone. So I hope you had a chance to jot down those top 5 values.
Me too. It was actually harder than I thought.
Yeah. It's not always easy to narrow it down, is it?
No, it's not. So now that we've got those values in mind, you mentioned something called a Purpose Map before the break.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so the Purpose Map is basically a visual tool that helps us connect our passions and skills with the ways we can make a positive impact.
So it's like a roadmap to purpose.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
It's more like a brainstorming tool that helps us see the big picture.
Okay, I like that. So how does it work?
Well, you start by dividing a piece of paper or a whiteboard into 3 columns.
Okay.
And the first column is what I love.
What I love?
Yep. So this is where you brainstorm all the things that bring you joy and energy and fulfillment.
So anything goes here.
Pretty much, yeah. If it makes you excited, write it down.
Okay, got it. What about the second column?
The second column is what I'm good at.
What I'm good at.
So this is where you acknowledge your skills and talents.
Okay.
Those things you naturally excel at.
Yeah.
You know, the things people compliment you on.
So this is where we get to brag a little.
Exactly. Own those strengths.
I like it. And what about the third column?
The third column is how I can help others.
How I can help others.
Okay. And this is where we start to think about how we can use our unique talents to make a positive difference in the world.
So it's about connecting those passions and skills to something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as you fill in these columns, you start to look for overlaps.
Overlaps.
Yeah, areas where your loves and skills and desire to help others all converge.
So it's like those are the sweet spots.
Exactly. And those sweet spots can give you some really valuable clues about your potential purpose areas.
Okay, so let's say I love to write.
Okay.
I'm good at storytelling. And I want to help people feel more connected to their community.
Okay.
So maybe a potential purpose area for me could be something like writing stories that highlight local businesses or community initiatives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got it. And the cool thing is that the purpose map can evolve over time. As you grow and change, your purpose might shift too.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people worry about picking the wrong purpose.
Right. But it's not about getting it perfect. It's about exploring different possibilities and seeing what feels right for you.
So it's all about the journey.
Exactly.
So I love this idea of the purpose map. I'm definitely going to try it. But realistically, I know there are going to be times when I feel stuck.
Of course.
When those roadblocks we talked about earlier start to creep in. You know, those feelings of self-doubt and uncertainty.
Right.
What did the source say about dealing with those moments?
Well, they had some really great advice for that.
Okay.
First of all, they emphasized the importance of remembering that purpose is personal.
Okay.
It's not about living up to someone else's expectations.
So it's okay if my purpose doesn't look like what my parents or society or whoever might expect.
Exactly. You get to define what matters to you. And they also had some great tips for dealing with fear of failure.
Oh, that's a big one for me.
Yeah, it's a big one for a lot of people. They suggested reframing that fear.
How so?
Well, instead of seeing failure as a negative thing, try to view it as a learning opportunity.
So it's like those setbacks and mistakes can actually help us refine our purpose.
Exactly. And they also reminded us that purpose isn't about perfection.
Okay.
It's about progress.
So it's about taking action even when we're not sure if we're doing it right.
Exactly. And remember, your purpose can evolve over time. What feels meaningful to you now might shift as you gain new experiences and insights.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people feel this pressure to have it all figured out right from the start.
Right. But it's a process. It's about embracing the unknown.
What about feeling overwhelmed?
Oh, that's a common one too.
It is. Because sometimes when I think about all the things I want to do and the impact I want to make, it just feels like too much.
Right. They had a great tip for that too.
What's that?
Break it down into smaller, manageable steps.
Okay, so instead of trying to change the world overnight, I might just focus on one small action I can take today.
Exactly. It's about creating momentum one step at a time.
And did they share any examples of people who had successfully found their purpose?
They did. They shared this really inspiring story about someone who had been working a high-paying corporate job.
Okay.
But they were really unhappy.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, it's a common experience. And they were afraid to leave their job because of, financial obligations and stuff.
The golden handcuffs?
Exactly. But then, through a series of unexpected events, they ended up volunteering at a local animal shelter. And something incredible happened.
What?
They discovered this deep passion for caring for animals.
Oh, wow.
And they had this natural talent for connecting those animals with loving homes.
That's amazing. So they found their purpose in a totally unexpected place.
Exactly. And eventually they quit their corporate job and started working at the animal shelter full-time.
So they took a leap of faith.
They did, and it led them to a life that was filled with so much more purpose and joy.
That's such an inspiring story. And it's a good reminder that sometimes we just need to be open to those new experiences.
Absolutely.
Because you never know where they might lead.
So before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, can we do a quick recap of the key steps to defining purpose?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So first we talked about reflecting on what brings us joy and fulfillment. Those things that make us lose track of time, Then we explored our core values,
Right.
those guiding principles that shape our decisions and actions. And we learned about the purpose map, which helps us brainstorm our passions and skills and ways to help others. And finally, we talked about the importance of embracing experimentation.
Yes.
Being open to new experiences and trusting the journey.
This has been so helpful. I'm already feeling more clear about my own purpose.
I'm so glad to hear that. And in the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore some practical tips for putting all of this into action and actually start living the more purposeful life.
Welcome back to the deep dive. It feels like we've done so much work already.
We have. So now I'm ready to talk about how we actually put all this amazing insight into action.
Yes. How do we actually start living a more purposeful life?
Exactly, because what good is all this knowledge if we don't do anything with it?
Right. The source emphasizes that it's not about making drastic changes overnight.
Okay, that's good to know.
It's about making small, intentional choices that align with our purpose.
So it's like those little everyday decisions that we make.
Exactly. It's about those gradual, sustainable shifts that add up over time.
That makes me feel so much better. Because I think sometimes we get caught up in this idea that we need to overhaul our entire lives.
Right.
Quit our jobs, move to a new city, and become a completely different person.
Yeah. And that can be so overwhelming and honestly unrealistic for most people.
Totally.
Yeah.
So what are some examples of those smaller intentional choices that we can make?
Well, it really depends on your individual purpose. But let's say, for example, your purpose map pointed you towards a desire to connect with your community and use your creativity to make a positive impact.
Yeah.
What's one tiny step you could take today to move in that direction?
Let me think. Maybe I could join a local writers group, or volunteer to help paint a mural in my neighborhood, or even just offer to design a flyer for a friend's community event.
Exactly. It's about finding those little ways to bring your purpose to life in your everyday interactions.
I love that. And what about setting goals?
Oh, yeah. Goals are important too. But the key is to make sure those goals are aligned with your overall purpose.
So it's not just about achieving things for the sake of achievement.
Right. It's about using those goals as stepping stones toward a more fulfilling life.
So if my purpose is centered around promoting environmental sustainability, my goals might involve reducing my carbon footprint or volunteering for an environmental organization.
Exactly. It's about making sure your actions are in service of your why.
That makes a lot of sense.
Oh.
And I think it's important to acknowledge that even when we have a strong sense of purpose, we're still going to face challenges and setbacks along the way.
Absolutely. Life is unpredictable,
It is.
And there will be times when we feel discouraged or lost or like we're not making any progress.
Yeah, for sure. But it sounds like having a strong sense of purpose can help us navigate those tough times.
It definitely can. It's like purpose gives us this deeper well of resilience to draw from.
Like it gives us that extra layer of armor to help us weather the storm.
Exactly. When you know your why, you're more likely to bounce back from setbacks, stay motivated even when things get tough, and just keep moving forward.
And we don't have to do it alone. Right.
Oh, absolutely not. Finding your tribe, building a supportive community around those shared values, that can make a world of difference.
That's such a good reminder. Because sometimes I think we get so caught up in our own heads, that we forget to reach out and connect with others who might be on a similar journey.
Right. And one final thing I wanted to mention. The source really emphasizes the importance of celebrating our wins, no matter how small they may seem.
Oh, I love that.
Because it's so easy to get caught up in the hustle and forget to acknowledge our progress.
It is. So if we manage to bike to work instead of driving all week,
Right.
or we finally carve out some time for that creative project we've been putting off,
Yeah.
we should celebrate those moments.
Absolutely. Those little victories help us stay motivated and reinforce that we're on the right track.
I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah.
And I think it's a perfect note to end on.
It is.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. Thank you so much for sharing your insights.
It's been my pleasure.
And for our listeners, I hope this conversation has inspired you to explore your own sense of purpose. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
It is.
So be patient with yourself, be open to new experiences, and trust the process.
And most importantly, keep diving deep.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time.